Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 was a scheduled commercial flight with 227 passengers and 12 crew which departed Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia at 0:41 hours and was scheduled to land in Beijing, China at 6:30 a.m. China Standard Time, 6:30 MYT, 22:30 UTC, March 7. The crew of the Boeing 777-200ER registered as 9MMRO took off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport in Malaysia to its planned destination, Beijing Capital International Airport.
Delivery Malaysia 370, good morning.
Malaysian 370 standby and Malaysian 6 is cleared to Frankfurt via Agosa Alpha departure, 6000 feet squawk 2106.
Cleared to Frankfurt, Agosa Alpha departure, 6000 feet squawk 2106, Malaysian 6.
Malaysian 6 over the ground, good day. Malaysian 370, request level.
370,
Malaysian 370 is cleared to Beijing via People's Alpha departure, 6000 feet squawk 2157.
Beijing People's Alpha 6000 squawk 2157, Malaysia 370, thank you.
Malaysian 370, welcome, I want to cover the ground.
Delivery Malaysia 370, good morning.
Malaysian 370 standby and Malaysian 6 is cleared to Frankfurt via Agosa Alpha departure, is cleared to Beijing, 6000 feet squawk 2106, 6000 feet squawk 2157.
Cleared to Frankfurt, Agosa Alpha departure, 6000 feet squawk 2157, Malaysia 370, thank you.
Over the ground, good day. 370, welcome, over the ground.
370,
Malaysian 370 is cleared to Beijing via People's Alpha departure, 6000 feet squawk 2157.
Beijing People's Alpha 6000 squawk 2157, Malaysia 370, thank you.
Malaysian 370, welcome, I want to cover the ground.
Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9, good night. Good night, Malaysian 370.
The transponder identifies the plane to air traffic control radar, and it was switched off just as the plane was moving out of Malaysian airspace and into Vietnam airspace.
Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9, good night. Good night, Malaysian 370.
March 8, 2014. Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 has gone missing en route from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. At 1:19 a.m., The pilots were instructed to contact Ho Chi Minh Air Traffic Control, but the call was never made. Less than 2 minutes later, the plane's electronic signature disappeared from radar screens.
When you actually switch a transponder off, all that the air traffic controller will then now see is just the blip. It no longer knows who this blip is, no longer has accurate information about what the blip is doing.
A Vietnamese helicopter heads out into the South China Sea on a search and rescue mission. Boats and planes from Vietnam, China, Thailand and the Philippines working together to search for the Malaysian airliner. But as the hours turned to days, they found nothing apart from fuel spills and rubbish.
We are continuing the search. We may not have much hope of finding the bodies, but we hope we will find the remains of the plane. And we hope to find the plane to find out the cause of the accident.
On the evening of the 11th, however, media reports emerged that Malaysian military radar had last detected the plane 200 kilometers north of the Straits of Malacca. The focus of the investigation started to shift away from the expected flight path and towards the Andaman Sea and the Indian Ocean. Still, the search continued in vain until the Malaysian Prime Minister revealed the flight had continued for many hours after it disappeared.
It is therefore with deep sadness and regret that I must inform you that according to this new data, flight MH370 ended in the southern Indian Ocean.
Malaysia's government and British satellite firm Inmarsat on Tuesday released data used to determine the path of missing Malaysia Airlines flight MH370, responding to a clamor from passengers' relatives for greater transparency. The data from satellite communications with the plane, which runs to 47 pages in a report prepared by Inmarsat, features hourly handshakes, or network logon confirmations, after the aircraft disappeared from civilian radar screens on March 8. The dense technical data released on Tuesday details satellite communications from before MH370's takeoff on a Saturday morning at 12:41 a.m. local time, 16:41 GMT, to a final, partial handshake transmitted by the plane at 8:19 a.m., 0019 GMT. The data includes a final transmission from the plane 8 seconds later, after which there was no further response. The data also featured 2 telephony calls which an Inmarsat spokesman said were made by Malaysia Airlines from the ground at 18:39 GMT and 23:13 GMT and which went unanswered by the plane. The spokesman said the existence of the 2 attempted calls was already in the public domain before Tuesday's data release. During flight, the aircraft maintains a data link with a satellite communication network for data and telephone calls. The data link connects the aircraft and a ground station via satellite, which translates, changes, the signal's frequency and amplifies the signal. The ground station is connected to telecommunication networks which allows messages to be sent to and received from other locations, such as the airline's operations center. Normal communications from Flight 370 were last made at 1:07 MYT. The data link between the aircraft and satellite telecommunication network was lost at some point between 1:07 and 2:03, when the aircraft did not acknowledge a message sent from the ground station. 3 minutes after the aircraft left the range of radar coverage at 2:25, the aircraft's satellite data unit, SDU, transmitted a logon message, which investigators believe occurred when the SDU restarted after a power interruption. Between the 2:25 message and 8:19, the SDU acknowledged 2 ground-to-aircraft telephone calls, which were not answered, and responded to automated, hourly requests from the ground station that were made to determine whether the SDU was still active. None of the communications from 2:25 to 8:19 contain explicit information about the aircraft's location. The aircraft's final transmission at 8:19 was a logon message. The aircraft did not respond to a message from the ground station at 9:15. Investigators believe the 819 log-on message was made when the SDU was restarting after the aircraft ran out of fuel and the aircraft's auxiliary power unit was started. The search for the missing airplane, which became the most expensive in aviation history, focused initially on the South China Sea and Andaman Sea, before analysis of the aircraft's automated communications with an Inmarsat satellite indicated a possible crash site somewhere in the southern Indian Ocean. The lack of official information in the days immediately after the disappearance prompted fierce criticism from the Chinese public, particularly from relatives of the passengers, as most people on board Flight 370 were of Chinese origin. Several pieces of marine debris confirmed to be from the aircraft washed ashore in the western Indian Ocean during 2015 and 2016. After a 3-year search across 120,000 square kilometers, 46,000 square miles of ocean failed to locate the aircraft, the Joint Agency Coordination Center heading the operation suspended its activities in January 2017. A second search launched in January 2018 by private contractor Ocean Infinity also ended without success after 6 months. Relying mostly on analysis of data from the Inmarsat satellite with which the aircraft last communicated, the Australian Transport Safety Bureau, ATSB, proposed initially that a hypoxia event was the most likely cause given the available evidence, although no consensus has been reached concerning this theory among investigators. At various stages of the investigation, possible hijacking scenarios were considered, including crew involvement, and suspicion of the airplane's cargo manifest. Many disappearance theories regarding the flight have also been reported by the media. The Malaysian Ministry of Transport's final report from July 2018 was inconclusive, but highlighted Malaysian ATC's failures to attempt to communicate with the aircraft shortly after its disappearance. In the absence of a definitive cause of disappearance, air transport industry safety recommendations and regulations citing Flight 370 have been intended mostly to prevent a repetition of the circumstances associated with the loss. These include increased battery life on underwater locator beacons, lengthening of recording times on flight data recorders and cockpit voice recorders, and new standards for aircraft position reporting over the open ocean. On March 18, a surface search in the southern Indian Ocean, led by Australia, began. It continued until April 28 and searched 4,500,000 square kilometers, 1,700,000 square miles, of Ocean 6 on March 24, 2014. Malaysia's Prime Minister announced that Flight 370 ended in the southern Indian Ocean with no survivors. In early April, an effort to find the signals emitted from underwater locator beacons, ULBs, attached to the aircraft's flight recorders, which have a 30 to 40-day battery life, was made. Some possible ULB detections were made and a seafloor sonar survey in the vicinity of the detections to scan the seafloor was initiated. The seafloor sonar survey ended on May 28 and scanned 860 square kilometers, 330 square miles of seafloor. Neither the surface search nor the seafloor sonar survey found any objects related to Flight 370. In May 2014, planning for the next phase of the search was initiated. A bathymetric survey was carried out to measure the seafloor topography in the areas where the next phase was conducted. The survey charted 208,000 square kilometers, 80,000 square miles of seafloor topography and continued until December that year. An underwater search began in October 2014 but failed to recover anything of value and was suspended in January 2017 after searching 120,000 square kilometers, 46,000 square miles of the southern Indian Ocean. On July 29, 2015, a flaperon from Flight 370 was discovered on a beach in Réunion, approximately 4,000 kilometers 2,500 miles west of the underwater search area. This location is consistent with drift from the underwater search area over the intervening 16 months. The Boeing 777 plane carrying 227 passengers and 12 crew members took off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport at 12:42 am local time, destined for the Chinese capital 5.5 hours later. It received final clearance to reach its altitude from Malaysian Air Traffic Control at 1:19 am and the pilots were told to make radio contact with Vietnamese officials. At this time, MH370 gave its chilling final radio transmission from the cockpit as it said goodbye to Malaysian air traffic controllers. "Good night, Malaysian 370. According to lead investigator Kok Soo Chan, the aircraft, instead of going straight to Beijing, made a right turn then a left turn and went in a southwesterly direction. Communications equipment was also turned off. The turn back was not because of anomalies in the mechanical systems. We can confirm the turn back was made under manual control," he said. No one knows why the change of direction was made, but the actions of a terrorist cannot be ruled out. There was no psychological evidence to suggest any of the crew deliberately crashed the plane or that it was remotely hijacked by hackers, as conspiracy theorists have suggested. Despite the full wreckage never being found, damage examination indicates the plane was not configured to land, suggesting no one was in control of the jet during its final moments. The final moments of missing flight MH370 have been recreated, showing how it plunged into the sea in a terrifying death spiral after running out of fuel, according to investigators. As part of a new documentary, experts say the plane almost certainly ran out of fuel after flying in the wrong direction over the Indian Ocean for 6 hours. The plane went missing on March 8, 2014 after losing all contact with radar control while flying from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. Carrying 239 passengers, including crew, engineers investigating the crash claim a high-impact smash into the ocean would have almost immediately killed everyone on board. National Geographic documentary Drain the Oceans recreated the possible doomed descent of the Boeing 777 after engineers said the right engine would have blown out first during fuel loss. Boeing announced that the missing Malaysian Airlines flight MH370 was not subject to any additional inspections ordered under the Federal Aviation Administration (FAA) Airworthiness Directive, in wake of increasing speculation linking it to the aircraft's disappearance. Last week, the FAA ordered further inspections on few Boeing 777 jets for cracking, corrosion and potential repairs after an operator reported a 16-inch crack in the fuselage skin underneath an adapter for the aircraft's satellite communications antenna. According to Boeing, the Malaysia Airlines Boeing 777-200ER did not include the antenna that was subject to the latest FAA order. Amid several recent high-profile incidents where planes have mysteriously vanished, the U.S. Aviation Safety Authority has issued new recommendations designed to help find wreckage faster and determine what caused crashes. Recent events have highlighted that recovering flight data can be costly and difficult when an accident occurs in a remote area, outside radar coverage, the National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, wrote in the letter to the Federal Aviation Administration. Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 remains the most notable recent missing plane, and its disappearance has driven aviation authorities worldwide to consider changes to how aircraft are tracked. Planes certified to fly long distances over water and which currently have flight data and cockpit voice recorders would now be required to have a way to transmit location coordinates, so they can be pinpointed within 6 nautical miles after a crash. The aviation industry contributes more than $150 billion annually to the U.S. economy, employing more than 1 million people nationally, according to the National Business Aviation Association, NBAA. This vast, high-powered industry is constantly seeking skilled and thoughtful leaders to propel aviation business into the future. As one of the largest and most respected aeronautical universities in the world, Embry-Riddle has prepared students to lead the competitive world of aviation business since our founding in 1926. Under the guidance of expert faculty, students apply foundational business principles to the dynamic industries of aviation, aerospace, and space exploration. We offer a wide range of programs to prepare graduates for the diverse and continually evolving field of aerospace. As an aviation business graduate, you will possess the skills to unlock countless opportunities within the business world of aviation and aerospace. The UN predicts that by 2050 2/3 of the world population will live in cities. How can we adapt and enhance today's already stretched mobility system for it to respond to our expectations and increased demands? How can mobility be reinvigorated for it to be sustainable and support the 2030 Agenda of Sustainable Development and its 17 Sustainable Development Plus commercial flights occurring around the world each and every day, representing over 400 departures per hour? Aviation has been at the forefront of innovation to become one of the safest and most reliable modes of transportation in the world today. The volume of air traffic is surprising to some. Aircraft are taking off around the world at a rate of over 400 departures per hour, and that's only scheduled commercial traffic. Air transport takes people and cargo around the world, and like bees pollinating the world economy, air transport can have a tremendous impact on the social and economic development and sustainability of a region. Malaysian flight MH370 had 153 Chinese, 38 Malaysians, 7 Indonesians, 6 Australians, 5 Indians, 4 French, 3 Americans and 2 people each from Canada, New Zealand, and Ukraine. The 2 Iranians were traveling on stolen Austrian and Italian passports.